the mask of Kronos will be reforged, and I will reign supreme forever!
Yes, folks, what you just saw there was indeed real. That was my voice featured in an animated series. And that wasn't just a little cameo either. I was actually among the main cast for an animated show called Amos the Mask Hunter, to which you could go and check it out right now for free on Tubi, to which the link will be in the description. Now, if you want to go and check out this series right now, I completely understand. What I just described is pretty much the long story short of this. But I'm sure some of you are rather shocked to hear that I actually did voice in an animated show, and something that is much more than what you would go and find on YouTube. Well, this is why I am doing this video. Not only am I here to go and share with you my experience with being a part of the cast of this show, but also to share with you the history of this show, mostly from the stories that the crew told me when they were working on it, and also in regards to its origins, how it came to be, and also its outcome, because let me tell you, this actually has a very fascinating story. But before I get into that, I want to go and share with you all a bit of my background. You see, outside of being a YouTuber talking about animation and making reviews and history videos and all that kind of stuff, I am also an actor. Now, I know that when it comes to cartoon reviewers, a lot of people expect that the next step after making those kinds of videos, they would go and create their own indie animated series, such as the case with some like Pan Pizza, Toonrific Tariq, Ellis Mark, and a few others. But as for me, however, as I've learned to discover myself over the years, that's not really the direction that I wanted to go. In fact, as Bruno said it best in Encanto,
I used to say my real gift was acting.
and that's always been a long time passion of mine and something that I've always wanted to pursue. Now, I know that trying to make that happen and work from the ground up without any additional help, like having relatives work in the industry to give you a little bit of a shortcut to turning that into a full-time career, is extremely difficult. However, this is why you need to have great passion, determination, and persistence in order to do so, which is something that I consider to be among my stronger traits, which is why it is something that I always encourage myself to go and pursue, because that is actually part of my big dream, is to actually become an actor. And while there have been some tough times and I've received hundreds, if not thousands of rejections from auditions that I've done over the years, I have been very fortunate to actually get some opportunities to do some voiceover work and some actual on-camera roles. Some of the works that I've done that I could share with you all is I was actually among the voice of Bendy and the Dark Revival, which you may know as the sequel to Bendy and the Ink Machine, where I voiced one of the enemies. I didn't actually get to say anything, but I actually did do a lot of monster noises. There is also a Warhammer game called Necromunda Underhive, to which I actually did voice the final boss of the game called Grand Dog, which I know not many people are familiar with that one in particular, but it's still pretty cool that I get to say that I voiced a final boss in a Warhammer game.
I will deprive you of your life for what you have done. Your suffering will be endless.
And another game that I did is the sequel to a Horse Club game, to which I provided the voice of several characters. And one thing that really made that worth it was when the Game Grumps actually got to play it, and there was one moment to which he didn't fully get to guess it, but it was honestly a lot of fun and really exciting to see Aaron Hansen trying to guess my voice or trying to guess who I was, considering that for him, my voice was actually familiar.
No, the newspaper I work for is hosting it, and I'll be helping to choose the best photo series. So, do you want to be a part of it?
I feel like we've heard this guy's voice before.
Does
Does it not sound familiar?
the voice actor? I need to hear again.
Then have lots of fun photographing and see you soon. Don't forget to bring me your photos on time.
Who does he sound like? I know that voice.
I have no idea. Is it from a video game?
I'm losing my mind over here.
And of course, it's not just video games and voiceovers that I've done, because I have also done some on-camera work. And most notably, a couple of years ago, as of this video, I actually appeared on the CBS series Ghosts, where I was actually part of a group of mall ghosts, and I actually ended up getting some credits in there. So that was also a moment that was really exciting in my acting career. But anyways, let's actually get into the main subject at hand, and let's talk about what is Amos the Mask Hunter. Well, to go and give you a little bit of background on that, this is actually based on a book series called Amos Daragon, written by Brian Perrault. And the best way to go and describe it, it's more like a D&D style fantasy version of something like Harry Potter and Percy Jackson. And this was actually very popular during the mid-2000s, specifically in Quebec. I believe there were a few other countries where they did receive the Amos Daragon books, and they were also popular there. But primarily, considering that Brian Perrault is a Quebecer, it is very popular in Quebec. I remember, in fact, in grade school, Amos was about as popular as Harry Potter at the time, and it was very celebrated for having this entire series. But eventually, with a popular book series, an adaptation wouldn't be too far. And in the 2010s, specifically according to the writer, he told me that they started this project back in 2013, where they wanted to go and turn Amos Daragon into an animated series. And what's more, they got Sylvain Viault to go and produce this. Sylvain Viault, by the way, you probably know him best as one of the executive producers of the original Totally Spy series. And I actually did get to meet him a few times during the production, and he was actually a pretty cool guy. He's very chill. And what this series is about, it's a linear plot that goes throughout the series about this kid named Amos Daragon, and he hangs out with this group of kids that have their own special abilities as well. You got one who is a spellcaster, you got another one who is a Gorgon, and you got another who is a bearite, or someone who has the ability to transform into a bear. And guided by their spiritual leader, and I do mean that literally, named Sardigan, and along having some animal sidekicks as well, like you got a group of pigeons and even a dragon named Maelstrom, they go and collect masks in which they have their own unique abilities. And they want to make sure that in order to go and save the world, they have to go and make sure that they don't get into the hands of the villain, the evil god Seth, who pretty much is the same one like in the Egyptian mythology, and his assistant, Black Sun.
But what of Amos Daragon?
The future will reveal all.
Now, as for who I voiced in Amos, believe it or not, this is when the crew actually get to discover that I actually have quite a versatile voice, in which I voice not just one, not just two, not just three, but I actually provided the voice of 4 recurring characters. So if you go and watch Amos the Mask Hunter, you will hear my voice more often than you may expect. And for those who want to look out and try to figure out who I voice, the main one that I've provided the voice is Bjorf, Amos's best friend, and the muscles of the group, who has the ability to turn into a bear. Or I will say it doesn't happen all the time, considering he also has his signature weapon, to which he calls
The Fist and Gauntlet of Odin!
And And when it comes to his voice, it actually comes with a very funny story because I remember when I went to Audition and I saw the description of his character and I looked at his design and I saw how he was a large, portly character. So I decided to go with an impersonation of Patrick Star from SpongeBob. You know, just going around like, hey, SpongeBob. But then you take Patrick, but try to wizen him up a little bit. Kind of like in the first episode, Help Wanted, where he's a lot smarter. He's a lot more confident. He knows what he's doing. He's ready to go and save the world and help out his buddy Amos. And that is how I developed the voice of Bjorf.
Well, what are we waiting for? The sun will rise soon, and we've got some specters to help.
And then another character that I voice is Black Sun. Not necessarily the main villain of the series, but he does help out the main villain whenever he can so that he could go and climb up to the ranks to be as good as Master Seth. And as you can hear, of course, his voice is the closest to mine when it comes to the cast of Amos the Mask Hunter. And as for his personality, considering that his evil, dark, mysterious presence is, well, no pun intended, just a mask, I decided to go and be inspired by Republican personalities. At the time, one of the biggest ones was Ben Shapiro. When it was time to get ready and be Black Sun, that's when I would tell myself that it's time for me to get into my Ben Shapiro mode, or whatever Republican personality you may think of. They're pretty much all the same, like whether it be Charlie Kirk or Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Matt Walsh, or what have you. They're all pretty much the same, where they try to put up an intimidating presence, try to think that they are superior than everyone else. But when consequences finally meet face to face with them, well, they just suddenly become cowardly. And considering that resonates very well with Black Sun, I decided to go and amp that up, especially whenever he fails at his mission, then the cowardliness is played up for laughs, very similar to something like Team Rocket.
No, don't! I won't! No! I can't see! I can't see anymore!
Then going back to the heroes, another one that I voiced is Maelstrom, the dragon. And for that one, I remember the voice director was asking for Kermit the Frog, but he would constantly hit puberty. And considering how many times people would go and tell me that my voice would often break whenever I would go and talk in my videos in general, maybe even in this one as well, it does feel like a natural fit that I could go and do so. So basically with Maelstrom, it's basically if you would take Kermit the Frog, and then you would go and take the squeaky voiced teen in The Simpsons. Put that two together, and you pretty much got Maelstrom, the helpful dragon whom, no matter what the situation may be, I'll be happy to go and help out Amos and the buddies to go and get that mask and make sure it doesn't get in the hands of either Black Sun or, even worse, get in the hands of Seth.
Thanks for rescuing me, guys. I would never lay eggs for the sorcerer. After all, I'm a boy dragon.
And then the fourth one is probably the most ridiculous voice that I use. It's Oddlog, one of the pigeons that also aid Amos and the gang along their journey. And when it comes to Oddlog, considering that he's a lot more of a comic relief, actually, I want to go and tell you how I ended up getting the voice with that one, because it's honestly very funny. Now, do keep in mind that considering that the whole production was in the province of Quebec, of course, a lot of the crew lean a little bit more towards being francophone than actually being anglophone. So with that said, when the director asked me to try out a certain voice for Oddlog, he first asked me to try to be Irish. So I did do that. I tried to go and read his lines like, "Oh, Amos there, boyo. I got a message in regards to where the mask is. You better go and hurry in order to grab it." I tried to do that, but the director was like, no. Try to be Irish like a Viking. Okay, I don't think I've ever heard of an Irish Viking before, so I tried to decode what he meant to say, and I realized, oh, maybe he's mistaking Irish with Scottish, because maybe he's thinking like the Scottish Vikings like in How to Train Your Dragon. So I decided to go and do the most outlandish Scottish accent you ever heard. Something that would make groundskeeper Willie from The Simpsons sound American and subtle. And they loved it. Every time that I go and do Odlog, it always gets a good laugh from the entire team. It's always a blast doing Odlog, no matter what.
We know what to do, Medusa. It's time for a pigeon's secret weapon.
And then there was a fifth one that I also did, which was Sardigan, the old master who would go and actually help out the team. Now, I did the voice as well during the recording, but unfortunately, I guess being in my mid-20s was not enough or not convincing enough to go and play an old man like Sardigan. Which is why if you would go and watch it, it's actually someone else who would go and do the voice, because they even told me that they wanted to go and find an older gentleman to go and actually provide the voice of Sardigan. So I was pretty much the temporary voice during that time.
By understanding your strong emotions, you were able to use them to your advantage. And when you master your own emotions, Amos, you will become a hero worthy of legend.
And keep in mind that those are the recurring characters that I get to voice in each of the episodes of Amos the Mask Hunter. This doesn't even count some of the one-shot characters that would only appear in a single episode or two throughout. Now, how I personally got involved with this, believe it or not, it was actually quite a while ago as of this video that I actually did do that job. In fact, it was throughout 2019 that I did do all that voiceover work. And I remember I actually got into this audition in which I believe it was either my agent or it was a casting agency that got me in there. And funny enough, it was actually my first time doing an in-person audition in which I had to go to the studio in order to go and actually read the lines of some of the characters. And nowadays, however, it's actually considered very rare in order to go and do that. Maybe it's not the case when it comes to some of the bigger entertainment capitals like in either Toronto or Los Angeles or New York and stuff like that. But in the case of Montreal, nowadays especially, it is generally self-taped. So that's one thing that really does make Emma stand out, is because it was actually a moment where I had to go to the studio in order to go and audition for the roles. And if there is one that I would say that would get me into this series, it was probably with Bjorf, because I remember I did read for several of the characters. I tried for Amos, I did read for Black Sun as well, but I believe it was Bjorf that got me in, because the others, like, I had to go and get some direction, like, oh, can you try something like this? Oh, can you try something like that? But when it comes to Bjorf, that was like a one and done deal. Like, I read it once and that was it. And I got the feeling that might have been the key to what got me hired into this. And it's probably the one where the producers and all the different crew members in there, they heard me and they were like, that's the one right there. That's our Bjorf. We need to get him here. At least I could be wrong, but I got the feeling when I did get that audition. And from there, when I did get the job, that is why when it comes to 2019, I consider it one of my favorite years personally, as well as one of the best moments of my acting career so far, because it was the time when I really felt like I was a real voice actor, where about 2 to 3 times a month, I would go and drive to downtown and I would just go up to the studio and get ready to play a whole bunch of characters, rather it be playing the same ones like Bjorf, Black Sun, Maelstrom, Oddlog, or a few extra others, plus the fact that I also got to know a lot of the people there, rather it be knowing the people working at the studio or knowing the people working on the show. I do want to note, however, that not all the cast members were there. We were pretty much separated from the boys and the girls, where there were 2 other girls that would go and record for the female characters. And as for the guys, it was me and one other guy that I recorded with around the same age as me, named Luca Di Tecco. I believe that's his name. He's honestly a really chill and really cool guy. We actually connected through Simpsons memes, I remember. So it was a blast and an honor working for him. And even getting to know the director as well, Charles André. He's also a very charismatic and fun guy. Honestly, it was a blast being directed by him. And honestly, one of those people that I'm always excited to get the chance to go and work for him. So throughout that time, it was just so exciting and a lot of fun to get to work on Amos the Mask Hunter, getting ready with our scripts and seeing a lot of the animatics of what is to come and seeing all the different action that would occur, which, by the way, speaking of the animation, shout out to Iceworks Animation, who actually did provide the visuals of Amos the Mask Hunter.
We need to see where that goes.
I can use my powers?
Nah, this is the perfect job for the Fist of Odin.
But at this point, however, some of you might be wondering what happened to Amos the Mask Hunter. Why was it that it never got a prominent release? And this is the part in which the history of Amos the Mask Hunter gets a little bit complicated. Now, to go and give you some extra context about the job that me and Luca had to go and do, technically, we had to go and provide the demo track of Amos the Mask Hunter, which does explain why we ended up doing numerous of different roles. And as for Luca, he ended up providing the voice of the main characters, actually, with the protagonist, Amos, and the antagonist, Seth. And the reason why I bring this up is that Amos the Mask Hunter is actually primarily a French series, because this was actually approved by Radio Canada, which is the French version of the CBC. Radio Canada was already cool with it, and they actually asked for a full season of Amos the Mask Hunter. The English version, CBC, on the other hand, they were always on the fence. So whenever we would go and talk to the crew in regards to the possibility of this being released, especially in English, they're always in the mood of like just thinking about it. Like they want to wait and see until they watch the final result of it, and then they would go and determine if it would be good enough to go and actually distribute across Canada on CBC. And once my job was done with Amos, I ended up waiting for quite some time. And of course, well, as you could imagine, the pandemic did complicate things. But unfortunately, over time, I guess I kind of got my answer with the silence, in which, unfortunately, it didn't really happen.
No fun in the sun for Black Sun.
And the thing is, if the English version would have been approved, then me and Luca would have officially been a part of the cast. In fact, all of us would have officially been in the cast. Maybe we wouldn't have done as many voices as we have during the whole demo track of it, but at least it would have been confirmed, like Luca would still be Amos, I would still be Bjorf and maybe Black Sun, and then they would go and cast several other people to play as the different characters. But unfortunately, when it comes to this business, when you don't get an answer, that pretty much means that it's not gonna happen. And that's sadly the case with the English version of Amos the Mask Hunter. And I believe the French one did get released in early 2021 in Radio Canada, but sadly, it didn't really go far. It only had that one season, and sadly, that's it. And this is why, ultimately, I feel like my experience with Amos is actually a bit of a double-edged sword. Yes, there is the side where I had a great time, and again, it was an absolute highlight of my acting career that I still highly cherish. But then there is the downside as well, in which, unfortunately, not everything you're going to be creatively a part of will actually see the light of day. There will be some projects in which you'll be working on for months, years even, and you can actually be highly passionate about the work that you would go and do there, but there is still that likelihood in which no one is going to see it. It will never be released to the public. And this is something that, yes, it's kind of like common knowledge when it comes to show business in general. And even when it comes to those major studios as well, like either Pixar or Sony, like they would have their fair share as well of projects that they have worked on for years only to end up being canceled and no one would ever get to see it again. And it's one thing if you would go and hear the news about it, but actually being a part of it, like experiencing that firsthand, there is a part where it does emotionally hurt. And I know by this point, and I've definitely received a lot of it, where many people would go and tell me that, well, I mean, it's not that much of a loss. You did get paid for it. And I mean, yeah, it is true, but there's still a factor where it does suck because you put in so much hard work, so much passion and dedication to it, only for it to never be seen by anyone. Like during the time that I was recording for Amos, I was actually very excited for the day that it would get released and I could go and showcase it to not just everyone on the internet, but also to like my friends and family and stuff like that. But then suddenly, after hearing or after not hearing anything about it, actually, it does suck, sadly. And it kind of makes me feel like, I guess I'm just back to square one, where, yes, I did get the experience of working with people, but I don't have anything to go and showcase my voice acting talents. You know, it was the moment where I felt like I was a voice actor, but I cannot go and show off that I was a voice actor.
Who could have possibly imagined we would grow so close?
You're pulling my leg. Come on.
So from there, yeah, it was heartbreaking, but eventually I did move on. And over time, considering that I accepted that Amos was pretty much canceled, I went and talked to people about it, and I would go and reveal that, yes, I was part of an Amos Daragon series, and I would go and tell that to my friends, and I would also go and talk to that with fans. But then came early 2026, where that discussion suddenly took a very unexpected chapter. Now, the same story goes in which I would go and talk to fans, specifically those on my Patreon, and I would mention about my acting career, and I would mention that I was once part of an animated series that ultimately got canceled, and it was called Amos. And of course, they were fascinated by it, and you know, the chat was nice, and I just went back to making videos. But then, out of nowhere, one of those fans came back to me and sent me a message of, "Hey, Matt, you know that Amos series you talked about? I actually found it." And I was just in absolute shock. I thought this thing was gone, but lo and behold, it's all there on Tubi. And crazy enough, no, there were no additional actors that were put in, with maybe the exception of Sardigan. But yeah, it's all there. Like all the episodes that we have worked on, it's all in full display. So I was just amazed by the fact that, holy crap, I guess I was wrong. Amos Daragon did get released, maybe a little bit unceremoniously and put on a platform like Tubi, but still though, it is released. It is out there for people to actually go and check out.
Everything worked out. Except, I lost the fist and gauntlet of Odin.
No, you didn't. I'm a Gorgon, remember?
And by the way, if you choose to go and check it out, I will say that there are 2 episodes that I highly recommend you go and check out. The first of these is The Wax Hunter. Now, this is one where I don't get to voice as much. In fact, I think most of the time I'm only voicing Black Sun in this. But still, though, I do consider it one of the best episodes in there because it is very heartfelt and you do get to learn more about Amos's background. And honestly, that one I felt like it really packs more of an emotional punch more so than some of the other episodes.
And since everyone at the Sanctuary is family, we thought we should celebrate because we have each other.
You said it.
Right!
We're your family, Amos.
And then another one that I recommend you go and check out is the episode Seth's Egg, in which I will say is my craziest performance, to which this is the one in which Black Sun gets to wear one of the masks and then he kind of becomes like the Joker from Batman. But as the Joker, however, I had to go and put out what I have to say so far is my most absolute insane performance, to which I'd have to go and give it like 200% of my energy. Like, that's probably the one that features the craziest performance that I've done.
This time, the party's over!
Oh, and there is one more thing that I do want to go and mention with the fact that it is on Tubi. If you are not from the US, then you need a VPN in order to check it out because for some reason, and this is the weirdest thing for me, Amos the Mask Hunter is only available on Tubi in the US, which I honestly don't get because this is a full-on Canadian series that was produced in Canada with Canadian actors by Canadian animators with a Canadian crew, and yet for some reason, it's only available in the US. Why? I don't know, but at least with the help of a VPN, it is an easy fix.
Oh, great Master Seth! My hard work has paid off! I have found the Sanctuary of the Brave!
So that is my story with Amos the Mask Hunter, and I hope you guys enjoyed this little tale, and especially, I do hope that you give the series a chance and you decide to go and check it out. Like I said, it was one of the best acting experiences I've had yet, and it is a great honor to have worked with people like Luca and Charles-André and the people of Amos the Mask Hunter. It was all an absolute wonderful time, and I hope that one day I do get a chance to get that kind of experience again. Although I will say that this does come with a new fear that now that you are familiar with Amos the Mask Hunter, I dread the day when my fellow cartoon reviewers pick this up and they make a review out of it. After all the years that I've done reviews of animation, I don't know what it's like to be on the other side, and I dread to know what they think of it.
Put me down! No! Stop!
Nah, but for real though, feel free if you want to go and do a review. It would actually be great if you could go and actually spread the word about Amos the Mask Hunter, regardless of whatever opinion you may have. Maybe you think it's great, or maybe you think it's an absolute piece of crap. But regardless, if you want to go and watch a series that is similar to something like Avatar: The Last Airbender, but again, it has a lot more of a theme of D&D style fantasy, then go ahead and check it out. And in my case, it's also great to have Amos out there because this can also act as my animation demo that in the form of an entire series, considering that I've done numerous of different voices in there. So it kind of works out that way as well.
I want to tell you that, unlike the road caps, I've observed you are lazy and a scaredy cat.
What? You dare insult me?
But with all that said, I want to say thank you all so much for watching. And if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to go and hit like. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to go and subscribe to my channel where you get to hear me talk a lot more about animation. And if you want to go and support my work, there is always my Patreon at patreon.com/animat, in which you could go and support me and get a whole bunch of rewards, including but not limited to seeing my videos before anyone else. And by the way, for any productions that want to go and actually hire me as a voice actor, I actually do have a website where I host my demos, in which you could go to mattbrunevo.com, to which you can actually go and find my demos and my contact if you want to go and hire me for your project. So with all that said, and again, just want to remind you, the link is in the description if you want to go and check out Amos the Mask Hunter. So with all that said, I want to say thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.
No more hiding for you, Amos Daragon, until we meet again.